on the table. And like, is that fair to people who work for us? To give them an extension, and then because someone doesn't want them to have an extension, figures out a way to bring them back again? I think that's wrong.
Okay, Mrs. Diller, you have several points in there that I'm concerned about, what you're stating. The contracts are not the question at this moment. The question is, do we want to take corrective action and eliminate the possibility of any sort of community action against us? It is not, we're not discussing the merits of a contract at this point.
Wasn't the cure and correct about whether they were signed or whether they were valid, not what was in them?
Okay.
Well, I don't recall Mrs. Lack discussing anything about housing allowances.
Ms. Brown wants to step forward on this.
Sorry to interrupt.
Because we-
I did ask the general counsel permission to come and speak here. I would urge the board to refrain from inadvertently
Exactly.
passing out closed session information. That is certainly information that is available to all, but there is a reason why boards go into closed session, and to the extent that my job is to caution you, and I do not want to continue the discussion, but there is the idea that discussions happen in closed session. So, sorry for the interruption.
I have a question. If you learn something in closed session and then you come out in open session, how do you act on it without discussing what you learned?
Oh, are you asking me?
I'm asking anybody here who has an answer to that question. I'm truly wondering, if I go in there and I learn something and then I come back out here and I can't talk about what I...
Can't hear. The mic must not be
It's still
on.
on. It's on.
Well, I completely understand your conundrum. I just, from a liability perspective for the district, for the organization, I have an obligation to advise you not to divulge attorney-client privileged conversations and discussions that occurred in closed session. I think if there is a discussion that needs to be had between the board members, perhaps another closed session may be in order, but I do not want to jeopardize any potential liability or claims that may arise out of this discussion against the district.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have one follow-up question regarding that. If a member of the Board of Education received information from another source prior to our closed session item or closed session discussion and the outcome was similar, are we permitted to talk about that information?
I'm sorry.
If I consulted with an attorney
Sure.
prior to our closed session, can I use that information and share that information even though it was similar to what was shared in the closed session?
I think that would depend on what your bylaws say. That would depend. I mean, I can't control what you can share or not share. My job is to caution you with respect to the use of closed session information. However, if you have consulted another legal counsel, the privilege is with you because you met with that individual and consulted that individual as Linda Mayo, a member of the public, rather than Linda Mayo, a board member. So you would be speaking actually as an individual person, and I can't certainly say to you that you can't. That is information that you can share. The law restricts sharing information that you learn as part of a closed session as a body. And that's what I'm trying to say, that you can't, you should not.
Can we make belief statements about things we said in closed session, but not share what other individuals said?
You know, I will leave you to utilize your best judgment. I will again tell you that divulging closed session information is against the law.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. And also, I would want us to focus on the topic at hand, which is the consideration of 2 cure and correct demands. This is not
Madam President?
Any sort of consideration of contracts is a consideration of, do we choose to cure or correct or not? And my motion is around, absolutely, this board needs to have the wisdom, just as any organization might want to do to protect itself, is have the wisdom to choose to correct. It has nothing to do with guilt or punishment. It has nothing to do with anything else except we have an opportunity to do it better. And that's what I suggest we take advantage of. It's nothing more than looking at these two cure and correct demands. And that's the restriction on this conversation. Mrs. Mayo?
Yes, I have a substitute motion that I wish to present to replace your motion.
Okay.
I move that the Board of Education write letters to citizens Lack and Minion. A, denying the cure and correct demands of Lack's December 10th complaint and Minion's December 21st complaint. And further, B, thank citizens Lack and Minion for their steadfast commitment to the Brown Act and oversight of public agencies throughout Contra Costa County. And further, C, sign the board these letters in a public session on January 28th, 2013. And further, number 2, that the Board of Education participate in trainings on the Brown Act and on administrator contracts, including but not limited to legal requirements, model language, and Brown Act procedures related thereto. Ms. Joseph has a copy of it so that she can type it in.
I'll second that.
Okay, now when a substitute motion is made and a second is received, the substitute motion is debatable and both motions are to be debated. So
No,
that's,
not at the same
that's what we're
time.
looking at, is we can, the debate can focus on both motions.
No, the
And
debate
through
can only be
debating
on my
members,
motion.
excuse me, through debating, members decide which motion is the main motion. Absolutely, we can debate on both, and
You have-
focuses on both motions.
Madam President, I
The
just...
board may now discuss the merit of both motions, and that's how Robert's rules runs it. So is there any discussion? And
I have, as the maker of this motion, I believe that I am owed the right to express my views first, and then Ms. Dendler can make her remarks, then you can accept remarks from other board members regarding my motion.
Well, you can certainly debate your motion, absolutely, and you can attempt to defend your motion, but the board in total has to discuss the merit of both motions. So I'm happy to take from you any discussion, Mrs. Mayo, around your motion.
I will present my viewpoint first, and then perhaps we'll have to discuss procedural in later. I believe that the 90-day statutory limit to correct and cure, which was mentioned, all procedural errors expired on July 22nd, 2012. And I believe that the board action taken on April 23rd, 2012 is binding as approved by a 4-1-0-0 vote. And I believe that no Brown Act violation occurred. I believe that contract items deemed invalid by chapter, statute, or technical language of state agencies are cured by the severability sections of the contracts, which everyone can see by reading the contracts. And I do believe that the vote of the board in public session is binding on this particular matter. I sincerely value the intent of the Brown Act, and I understand by Mrs. Brown's example of signatures on contracts after they've been publicly